Our next event on the agenda is Fadi Deek is going to be leading us in a little bit of a discussion on the whole context of why we are here talking about retention, graduation, persistence, and student success. So Fadi, are you ready? I have to apologize. Joel was going to be joining us. Joel Bloom was going to be joining us as well as president, but he unexpectedly got called away. As Charlie said earlier, retention is not just one individual's responsibility, it's a shared responsibility. So that to really kick things off here, Fadi, we've asked him to lead a discussion on why the context of this shared challenge for all of us. So without further ado, thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Good afternoon, everyone. It's good to be here. It brings back memories. I think many of you know that there was a time when I too was an advisor, a freshman advisor, an undecided advisor, a backup advisor for Mr. Tress, but also a freshman instructor for nearly 20 years in CIS and its successor CCS. I taught what seemed like the entire freshman class, 4 large lectures. Mike would pack them as much as there was seats in the room. 4 of them, 125 students. And the freshman class at the time, believe it or not, was about 550 students. I don't know if you know that. Roughly half what it is today. Only a decade ago, we were bringing about half the freshman class that we bring today. We were bringing nearly as many transfer students too, though. And that number remained somewhat stable as the freshman class continued to grow because of our popularity and because of the promise a STEM degree will lead to. That's why students come to this university, for a promise that I know every one of you want to help them keep. But before we get into these topics, I'll also add to what Dave said, the President's regrets for not being here. I'll try my best to fill in his big shoes. So this isn't a presentation. I think Dave is right. This is a discussion, and I hope that we can have one. I know it's a large group, and with large groups, it's somewhat difficult to have a conversation, but we will try. Walking into this room, I was reminded of a favorite sentence that we ended the academic plan with. Well, first, how many of you know that we have an academic plan for the university? I know Charlie does. He was first to raise his hand. We have one. We have an academic plan that coincides with the remaining 2 years of the strategic plan. We're also gearing up already for a university strategic plan, which I like to call, which we are calling Vision 2020, or 2020 Vision. This is strategic plan 2015 to 2020. So you'll hear me talk about this vision. Maybe our discussions here today will help us even sharpen this vision. But back to the comment I was making earlier, I walked into this room and I was reminded of a favorite sentence of mine, and that is the very last sentence in the academic plan. It said, NJIT will be a leading science and technology university in the country. It will take the dedication of the entire community to make it so. And it seems as if the entire community is here, right here. So I look forward to working with you and with those who are on vacation and have not been able to join us to make NJIT a leading science and technology university in the country, and to be realistic and hopefully eventually one of the leading universities of the world. I said in a recent interview with the magazine, the NJIT magazine, certain things, and I said, you know, these are dreams, but sometimes they do come true. So being a leading university in the country is within our reach. We are a very good university, a fine university already, but there are a number of things that we need to do to be recognized as a leading university. And I think on your mind is one of those things. And I alluded to it earlier when I said the reason why our freshman class has grown to essentially double is because of the promise that a degree from NJIT, a degree in science, technology, engineering, and math will afford our students. But the problem is that many of our students are not realizing this promise. They are failing to realize this promise, even with your own hard work, their own hard work, for various reasons. Certainly, most of it is not our responsibility. A good bit of it is the students' responsibility, but maybe we can help them understand more their responsibility and deal with some of these issues that compel students to withdraw at the end of the first semester, at the end of the first year, at the end of the second year, to be with us for more than 4 years. And sometimes, because students start a little bit before the start line, it's understandable that they'll be with us a little longer, but sometimes they are with us too much longer, and we don't want that. As much as we love them, they could stay here and do a master's, but not to struggle with finishing a degree. What does this mean to us? The students not being able to realize the promise that led them to NJIT in the first place. I asked earlier the question, how many of you have actually seen or know that we have an academic plan, and many had heard that we have one? How many actually read the academic plan? I know Charlie did, yes. So in this academic plan, there is a chapter 2, labeled 3 because there's an introduction labeled 1, and there's a chapter that has to do with us as faculty and instructors. And the chapter next is called Student Success. And it's very specific, from admission to, can anyone finish the sentence? To employment and becoming alumni. Student success at every possible phase of their career here at NJIT and beyond NJIT. We want to be able to see them march at commencement, get their degree, hopefully with an offer in hand, become successful, be happy because of the experience that they had at this university, become engaged as alumni, which is a very important measure in terms of us being recognized, by the way. US News looks at a number of measures. A very important one is, of course, how others see us, our peers' evaluation. Another extremely important measure, roughly 1/4 of our score, has to do with our ability to retain and graduate students, and about 10% of the total score. These are big chunks. Already nearly a quarter is for our recognition by peers, roughly a quarter for how well we do and how well our students do. I don't want to imply that the responsibility is only on us. The responsibility is primarily on them. Our responsibility is to make sure they understand that the responsibility is on them, to help them understand that responsibility and act on it. But about 10%, it has to do with the alumni engagement with the university, believe it or not. So here it is, more than half, roughly 60% plus or minus, has to do with these 3 important measures that are all, and certainly 2 of the 3, all within the control of the group that is in this room. The retention, the graduation, and the eventual students' engagement in the university, because it has to do with how well they do here, how happy they were, what they thought of you, what they thought of their own experience at the university. And we're more than half the way to where NJIT needs to be. NJIT needs to be recognized in ways better than how we are recognized. We are a top-tier university. We want to be certainly top, and by top being ranked at a number between 1 and 99. We are at 1 and 39. So what does it mean to be concerned with student success from admission through employment? Again, in that section of the academic plan, we start the paragraph on admission. An admitted student is a qualified student, and we mean it. An admitted student is a qualified student. Otherwise, we are doing the student a disservice, bringing him or her to this university if we had a doubt that the student is not qualified to be here. However, realistically, we cannot control all aspects of the student's success, including personal motivation, for example, and other things that may take place. But we can certainly model a successful student, and we know there is one that is engaged, there is one that is committed, there is one that is eager to learn, but there is one that would not shy away from seeking help. Help from you as advisors, help from you as freshmen, instructors, and certainly staying on top of the things that they must do as students, and that is showing up for class week, starting with waking up on time, being in class physically, listening to the lecture, asking questions, doing the homework, studying for the exams, and succeeding. Goes with that is, of course, something we've talked about for now a number of years, that while on paper the students are qualified, an admitted student is a qualified student, and for the most part they are, and most of our students in fact do succeed as per the expectation. Some, for whatever reason, perhaps need to, with your help, everyone's help, even their own parents' help, etc., to reconsider, to be realistic about their major and reconsider whether this is the appropriate major for them. Earning a degree in major X in 4.5 or 5 years versus struggling for 10 years to earn a degree in major Y is a big difference. By the time you finish it after 10 years, probably no one is interested in you anymore. So, and you have wasted 5 years of your life and your career. So we need to be realistic. We need to give the students every opportunity to do well, to realize their dreams, to succeed in their chosen majors. But if we truly sense that there are reasons beyond our ability to help the students that will make them not successful in these chosen majors, we should do all we can to keep the students here and help them succeed in a secondary major that would be just as good. There is a different issue before we start the discussion. I'm not going to speak for too long, but just quickly, there's a different issue that we've looked at recently and that we need to address with your help as advisors, that has to do with graduation, not retention. Many students stick around and earn so many credits. In fact, go beyond the number of credits that would be required for any of our majors, yet don't have enough to satisfy the requirements of a specific major. It happens more than you think. I've been looking at these cases, students with 150 credits, over 2.0, but not enough to get that physics degree or the biology degree or the history degree or whatever. And we need to be looking at this and look at this very carefully and help students leave with a degree. One of the issues that I will put on the table this Wednesday at CAA and subsequently at other venues including with you for a discussion, is allowing the students to earn a degree, some degree, an interdisciplinary studies degree from NJIT with a concentration in, let's say, an area that they've taken most of their courses in. Believe it or not, we can improve our graduation rate by 2 percentage points. This isn't a gimmick. This is a reality. The students have taken enough courses to earn a degree, and there is a value in every one of these credits. There is no reason not to award them a degree. Clearly, they haven't been able to do all the things that they need to do to get that electrical or computer or whatever it is degree, but they can get something else, probably pretty close to it, a specialization in it, but maybe a generic degree. We need to think about this and other creative ideas that will help our students move on to the next phase of their career. So, as I think I see one hand up, so maybe we'll start there. I was going to come back and say a few more words as advisors and freshmen instructors, but maybe I'll stop here. Are there enough mics, or are there things out there for people to engage if they wish? I don't want to ramble on. I just want to be able to have a discussion with you and perhaps get some good ideas from you. So line up. Or maybe Joe will come with the mic to you. Gordon Thomas, my best student, always has questions.
The President of the United States recently introduced an idea for improving universities generally across the country, which involved the push by the federal government using money as a lever to improve retention rates. What's your reaction to that?
We should be held accountable. We are receiving in various forms state and federal funds to educate our students. And we are not doing as good as we should be. We need to be doing even better than this. But we're falling short of what US News says we should be doing. There is a certain profile of an entering student that we have at this university that dictates a certain number when it comes to graduation retention. And we're behind by a few, more than a few, a handful of percentage points. Well, at least to begin with, we should be there. If we are not there, we need to figure out very quickly why we are not there and get there quickly. And when we get there, we need to do better, because that won't be enough. So, yeah, I'm not sure that it's exactly what the president wants to do or the legislation that is currently being discussed in New Jersey, but we should hold ourselves accountable before somebody else does it. Jerry.
Clearly, if we're behind on retention, it doesn't happen all at once, right? It happens a little bit at a time. Is there any way that we can measure that a student is in danger of falling into one of these situations, you know, before it gets too difficult to repair?
Yeah, I think there are, and maybe some advisors will probably give you a better response, but I'll say something just off the cuff. You know, depending on your major, if your major is electrical engineering and you are repeating for the 6th time Calculus 2, we should be having an honest discussion with you. Right, Grace? Just one example, right? There are many examples, but this is one of them. Repeated change of majors, if you want another one, repeated change of majors will delay you no matter what. We try our best to plug things in. We could be as flexible as possible, but sometimes you'll take things beyond the free elective that are required to a certain major. They're just sitting out there. That's what happens when these students come up with these 150 credit transcripts. There are no more slots to plug these things in. So there are a few things, Jerry. Yes, one, realistically, how many times should you take a certain course? I mean, twice, 3 times? I'd say twice. And if you're still not doing well, then we have to have a discussion. I'm not saying cut the person off, but we have to have a discussion then. Siobhan. You have to forgive me. I may not be able to call everyone by name because I see new faces here. So you say your name, please, when you get the mic.
Siobhan.
Really?
Just to dovetail off of what you were saying, as advisors, we go as far as we can, and then we're handicapped in that we can only advise so far. Change your major, change your major. And we have repeated cases of students in electrical and computer engineering, for instance, who will get to a max in a required course, say Physics 1 or Physics 2 or even ECE, and they can't take it anymore, but they won't change their major. So I think we need a mechanism to do something to help them help themselves when they don't want to.
Yeah, you're right. If the students do fail at making a decision, the right decision, personal responsibility, we started with this, we have to have a policy, and you'll have a role in helping us set this policy. Yeah, sometimes we have to legislate. My preference is to avoid these things, but eventually I think we have to tell the student, you're not in this major because you are wasting your time and your money and the instructor's time. Jerry.
Yeah, we find that when we look at 10% of students who do not pass English composition, we find the basic reason they don't pass it is non-compliance. It means they don't hand in their work, they don't come to class. Then we look to see what their general GPA is, and I'm talking about first semester freshmen. And their general GPA is around 2.0 or lower. In other words, they're on probation. And the third thing is when you look at their SAT in English, they have around an average of 550 in critical reading, which is pretty high. So I sometimes say you have to be very good to fail composition. My main point is that a lot of the students who are not doing well are people who really have 560, 570, 580 in English, in math. What's the problem that that 10% of the students or so is doing poorly in everything the first semester? These are not the lower level students. These are the students who should be making it.
Yeah, I wish I have the answer. Our graduation, retention and graduation rates will be in the 90+%. But it's a good question, Jerry. I said earlier, we can model the successful student, and we do, and that's how we accept students. But maybe we cannot take all that there is to take into consideration in the formula that we use. Motivation, transition. I should mention, and I wanted to at the end, but that's probably the right time to do it, that we now have a we have an advising success center. It's at that table, I think, primarily. And this is something that we welcome, we embrace in academic affairs. All our colleges and schools and departments are happy to have help, additional help, where we can take on responsibilities based on our strength. Some of the advising will continue to take place in the major, but others will be centralized. And one of the things that we can now look at, many things we can now look at developmental advising, but one of the things is try perhaps to model the behavior that cannot be accurately, mathematicians cannot accurately, for example, model, and it may be transition, it may be other things. But I wish, and I know that we don't have a fully staffed office, but I wish that this would be one of the items on the agenda. And I don't have all the answers, and maybe they won't have all the answers, but we can promise you that we can, and I will work with Charlie and his office to make sure that we come back and report to you at various venues with some ideas and seek them back, ideas and suggestions from you. But one way or another, there are all kinds of holes in our system for retention and graduations where we can plug as many as we can, probably immediately much of it and eventually all of it. And by then I think we will be, or at least we would have satisfied one of the measures that would make us a great university. So I'm glad you bring it up, Jerry, but I don't have a specific answer. But I think the experts that we now have hired will look into this, and I hope they'll come back to us within this academic year and say, these are things we didn't know about. We're looking at them right now. This is a trend. And they have access to offices at this university and individuals who have ideas and who have seen things that we need to look at. And I hope we'll take this as a major responsibility for that office.
Ken.
Welcome back, Ken.
Thank you. Two questions. One, does the university have anything like exit interviews for students who leave in the first 3 semesters? And if so, other than academics, what kind of reasons are students giving? And then the second question is, what are the gatekeeper courses that cause the most problems for freshmen?
A very good question. Is Sotirios Diavras in the audience? No. So he is, as you know, the interim associate provost for graduate studies. This is a topic that he and I discussed this morning, exit interviews. I think we do some things. It's very hard, once these students leave, it's very hard to get them to talk to us. But we've started to do so at the graduate level. We have an issue at the PhD level, compounded by the fact that the applicants are going somewhere else, are staying in their own countries, etc. We are losing students, which is a new phenomenon at this university. Not as much at the master's level. But this is a great idea to do at the undergraduate level. And Perry has done a report, a qualitative report, a couple of years back that tracked some of these students. Believe it or not, the bulk of the students then were leaving because NJIT did not offer them the major that they thought they'll have here. But many of our students left not knowing that we have a business school. They went to a nearby school to study business because ours was called School of Management. So we lose a lot of students for, frankly, silly reasons like this. So I would say we have an idea as to why some students leave, but I can tell you that I don't think we have a handle on all the reasons that we lose students. I mean, certainly as a STEM institution, this is a harder than expected place for many of our students, but we can help them with existing majors. Others realize that this is a too small place, or maybe it's in a city, and that's not what they wanted. And frankly, and that is beyond the first year, a good number of our students leave because they could no longer afford NJIT. We're expensive. So there are all kinds of reasons, but that's another area I think that we need to start looking at more carefully. In exit interviews, I wish we can do this with every student. I wish there will be a day where we can do this with every student, meaning that our retention rate is so high that we only have to talk to very few students. But I don't think we can do it with every student, and many don't respond. Glenn. Dave, I think we have 5 more minutes or less.
This will be quick.
No, that's fine, just so we all know.
Two things strike me when you said that we have students who left for business school who didn't know that we had the equivalent. One, I'm surprised that the student himself or herself didn't have the initiative to actually look around at their own on the website or the college catalog, and that makes me wonder about the student we brought in the first place. But the other, and this is something I've already said to you and to others, perhaps they don't realize that we have a substantial number of good non-STEM programs. And when you look at, I got a call this morning asking to speak to the director of our program at New Jersey Science and Technology University, not even knowing that we were New Jersey Institute of Technology. And that's, of course, what I still see on the PowerPoint template on the screen. This place changed in 1973. I wasn't here at that time, but it changed from NCE to NJIT, and it embraced a far more comprehensive vision of education. And my concern about something like central advising is that when I've gone out to college fairs and admissions programs, that the people who are advertising, the way we look at ourselves, not what we do. I have no problem with anything that we do as much as what we're saying. And that our students would be better served and have more opportunities if they had a better idea that we are a comprehensive university and not only a STEM school.
Yes, STEAM school. He didn't say it, but I'll say it for you. STEAM school, A for the art. You are right, Glenn. I think we have an identity crisis. You're absolutely correct. Our tagline, which I love, and you heard me earlier, I quoted myself from the academic plan, where we talked about us becoming one of the greatest science and technology university. This is our current tagline. NJIT itself, for whatever reason, hasn't resonated with a lot of people. Many people still think of us as NCE, and now we are New Jersey Science and Technology University. So this is another thing that we have to, from a branding viewpoint, wrestle with. But you are absolutely correct about, and I was telling your program yesterday, by the way, we had company, and one of the kids was interested in digital design, and they knew about NJIT, but they had no idea that we offer the program. And we need to do a better job. Probably many students that left NJIT are now majoring in majors that you have, not just business, but majors that you have. That's why they go to Montclair, and that's why they go to Kane and places like this. One of the things that we will be spending time on this fall, I hope our organization in academic affairs and Charlie's organization, is to talk openly and honestly about how we do recruiting and how we do admission at all levels. And I'm sure this will be a topic that we will discuss. I think we can take one more, Dave. 2 more? Okay.
Yeah, I'm Mani. This is a suggestion I have made in a few meetings earlier also. The success of a student starts with the success in the first semester.
Closer, if you don't mind. Closer to you.
Yeah.
Mic, yeah.
The success of the student is, depends on his success in the first semester. And they have to depend on a GPA, getting a high GPA in the first semester, and they don't get a high GPA, then it becomes a problem. Progressively, they don't do well, they are not encouraged. So one of the idea may be that you give them a pass-fail grade in the first semester, and tell them what they would get as an A, B, or C, whatever it is. But if you give them a pass-fail grade, then from next semester onwards, they can get a regular grade. That might help them to show where they are or how they perform. At the same time, they go through the classes. This has been practiced at MIT. Other institutes follow that also.
It's something to consider. I haven't thought about it, but certainly it's something to consider. You're saying that it eventually becomes a letter grade?
No, it becomes a letter grade. It is only a pass-fail grade in the first semester.
Okay.
But afterwards, they start getting the letter grade from the second semester onwards. So in the first semester, they are not affected because of the transitioning into this university.
Yeah, it will take the entire community to fix some of these, let's call them problems, that we are dealing with and make us a great university. And every idea, I think, should be considered, including yours. I've not thought about this, but we should.
And MIT does follow this. My son went to MIT, and first semester there was no letter grade.
Thank you very much. Yes. Thanasis.
I keep asking entering freshmen how long they spent studying during their senior year every day on the average. And I get honest, I say, nothing. 10 minutes on the bus, whatever we do at school. So if they come here with that kind of an attitude, it's impossible to do well. Some or most, fortunately, get it. In university, the freshman seminar, etc., and they study. But those who fail, they just don't, put the effort in it. Would it be possible to do something like the EOP boot camp for everybody? Since EOP, although they have less smaller SATs and they have, they are less economically comfortable, etc., they have better retention rates because they go through the boot camp in the summer. Can we do something like that for all freshmen? I understand it will cost more. Maybe we cannot do something exactly equivalent to the EOP, but maybe through university keep them, 2 days on campus and give them some math and humanities lectures and make them do homework, etc., so they can get an idea of what it is to be a college student and what it takes to do well.
Yes, it makes a lot of sense. And you yourself brought costs into it. We know that cohorts, i.e. EOP, do a good job. I'm sure it's something that we will talk about more. It's something that we have already discussed. And frankly, cost was the stumbling block. And maybe we need to find a way to overcome that stumbling block. You are so correct that many of our students don't realize that being smart alone, which may have worked for them in high school, is not sufficient in college. You have to be smart and you have to be responsible. I think you recall I said, first I have to get up, go to class, listen to the lecture, do the homework, study for the exams, and that's not just 10 minutes. And many of our students have not developed these habits, and it's not easy to develop these habits overnight, and maybe a cohort system, a summer program, for example, will help the students develop such habits. I think learning communities had intended to bring in such of these habits and introduce them to our students, and they probably are doing it. Is Judy must be in the audience, right? Yes. And I think that was one of the things that you intended to do, and I presume we will continue to do right now with learning communities. But I like the idea of cohorts. I like this boot camp, and we know that it does work. Cohorts in general, whether it's honors or EOP, we do a good job with it. We're just leaving the group in between. So you're right on the mark, Thanasis, and I hope it will be another topic that we discuss and explore through compelling the students to pay for it. I think, yes. Is that the last? Yeah. I want you to stay on schedule, so we'll take one last.
It's not a new question. I just had a follow-up comment with what he has brought up. I just wanted to point out that we have a lot of things going on, and some of them are going to be introduced later on, like the MapWorks initiative, which is specifically targeted at capturing the at-risk students. Plus, we have the Learning Communities initiative, in which the students are going to get peer mentors to help with this transition. And all the research suggests that if the transition is smooth, they are very much more likely to do much better going forward. And to keep students here, this time we have a much bigger orientation, which starts on Friday. Students are going to be here for the 2 days, and residents will continue to be here. And plus, they are going to take their seminar or the equivalent of seminar class during the orientation, where they will get to know their instructor and also the mentors and a lot of things. So quite a few of these suggestions are already being implemented. I just wanted to point that out. My name is Ashish, by the way. I'm the Learning Communities guy.
Thank you, Ashish, and welcome to you too. Yes, great. Quite a few of these ideas are already being implemented. There are some other good ideas that were suggested. I hope we will give them their due respect and discuss them. On that note, I would like to one more time convey to you, every one of you, my sincere appreciation, not only for being here today for a long period of time, but also for everything you do with our students, for our students, in the advising room, in the classroom, and everywhere else on campus. Thank you so much for inviting me to be part of your program.